Last week, we watched human survival break down after shrinking every person on Earth to 1 inch tall. Today, we are going in the exact opposite direction. Imagine waking up 10 times your normal size. Your average height jumps past 17 feet. Your weight shoots from a typical 160 pounds to well north of 10,000 pounds. Being a massive giant sounds like a serious upgrade. You would effortlessly tower over your own neighborhood. But physics has a very different plan for your new body. The moment the transformation happens, your feet plunge right through the floor. Every staircase, doorframe, and piece of furniture built for normal humans instantly splinters under an impact it was never engineered to hold. The actual lethal threat, however, is happening inside. You have been scaled up by a factor of 10 in every physical dimension, and your skeleton is inadequate for the load it now carries. This diagram shows exactly why.
Because your height, width, and depth all increased by 10, your total mass multiplied by 10 times 10 times 10, you are 1,000 times heavier. But the cross-section of your bones, which dictates their strength, only multiplied by 100. Standing upright puts 10 times more weight on your skeleton than it can handle, instantly shattering your femurs. Scientists have a specific name for this biological limit. It is called the square-cube law. The law states that when you scale up any three-dimensional object, its surface area increases by the square of the multiplier, but its internal volume, and therefore its mass, increases by the cube. Double a shape in size, its surface area quadruples, but its volume multiplies by 8. We can see how this geometry breaks a biological system by looking at the human heart. In your giant body, blood has to travel 10 times farther. Your heart grew proportionally in size, but it didn't gain the 10 times power multiplier required to push fluid across that new distance. Blood pressure drops drastically in the extremities. Your brain, hands, and feet receive inadequate circulation, causing chronic fainting spells and immediate cognitive impairment. This is why the blue whale, the largest animal on Earth, lives in the ocean. Water supports its immense mass, bypassing the crushing limits that gravity imposes on the size of any land-dwelling creature. The failure cascades through the rest of your organs. Your lungs absorb oxygen based on their surface area, which only increased by a factor of 100, but they have to supply a body volume that grew by 1,000. You face chronic oxygen deprivation just sitting still. Then there is body heat. Your massive cells generate 1,000 times more heat, but your skin, the surface area where that heat escapes, is completely inadequate to cool you down. You would overheat dangerously without moving a single muscle. You wouldn't even have super strength. Muscle power scales with cross-sectional area, meaning it only grows by the square. Your muscles are 100 times stronger, but they are fighting a skeleton and tissues that are 1,000 times heavier. Lifting your own arm becomes an agonizing, exhausting effort. Walking feels like trudging through deep mud. Even your nervous system slows down. Electrical signals traveling between neurons now have 10 times the physical distance to cover, causing noticeable delays in your reaction times. So rather than an invincible powerhouse, your 10,000-pound frame is a slow, overheating machine, constantly suffocating and trapped inside its own massive weight. Outside your failing body, the modern world is now completely useless to you. Vehicles, hospitals, roads, and tools are built exclusively for a species 1/10 your current size. This chart models the global food supply against individual caloric needs. A normal human requires about 2,000 calories a day. At your new size, with 1,000 times the mass, your daily caloric requirements skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands. Feeding a planet of giants requires vast fields of grain and produce, but simply walking across a farm to harvest it causes massive physical damage to the crops and the soil. Medical care evaporates entirely. Surgeons cannot operate on giant patients using tools designed for normal human hands. Procedures like childbirth become physically impossible to manage without properly scaled facilities. Between mass starvation, medical collapse, and destroyed supply chains, human civilization would completely fail in a matter of weeks. The square-cube law shapes the design of every physical structure we build and study. Paleontologists use this exact mathematics to determine why massive sauropods walked with specific, deliberate strides and couldn't sprint like smaller predators. Aerospace engineers calculate for these non-linear scale changes when constructing aircraft.
knowing that doubling its length drastically changes the forces acting on its frame. Architects face the same geometry. You cannot stretch a 2-story house into a 90-story skyscraper without completely redesigning the structural logic from the ground up. And it is exactly why you are the size you are. Over millions of years, evolution calibrated our biology, our bones, our blood vessels, our muscles, to thrive perfectly under Earth's gravity. Shrinking to 1 inch leaves you defenseless against surface tension. Growing to 17 feet causes your skeleton to collapse. Nature found the mathematical sweet spot a very long time ago, and we happen to live right in the middle of it. But what if the constraints of gravity suddenly disappeared completely? Next week, we find out exactly what happens in the first hour if Earth loses its gravitational pull. Subscribe so you don't miss it.